concise lamrim, all of these are actually based on this very particular text.
The one by Atisha,
yes.
right?
The Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment by Atisha. And then when we look at the kind of the contents and the topics that each text discuss, then there are many correlations between each other. Whereas in the concise lamrim, everything is now like very concise and not so many words. But it's a little bit more detailed in this particular text, Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment. So since if we actually begin to study the greater lamrims themselves itself, then it's impossible to cover the topics in the greater lamrim, because one volume is like this thick, the greater lamrim, so it's impossible. So with these two texts, it takes into account all the topics, outlines in the greater lamrim texts. And then as we already covered one text, then this, if we try to cover as much as possible from this second text, then it serves us to revise the same topics again, see if we have any misunderstanding, doubts at particular points, and then from our side to see if we have missed anything. Is he coming to the session?
I don't think so.
If he has fallen asleep, then it's okay. If he doesn't want to come, then let it be.
No.
Okay.
But I think he said that he's got very
그럼 안 되다 치우세요.
I don't know. She didn't answer.
Yes.
This question is sort of going back to the end of the last text that we covered. Wisdom of experiences, then part of that. And I've just noticed that verse 43 in this one covers the question that I want to ask. And so, wisdom without skillful means bodhicitta, and skillful means bodhicitta without wisdom are said to be a form of bondage. So my question is that how does wisdom inform bodhicitta? How does bodhicitta inform wisdom?
나는 좋다다 시럽을 해주라. 디다 가사님아 죄도 디스치죠 디다 트레이닝 티어팅 됐었어. 나는 그 전주남 전남라 우리 자와디나 쇼르가 십시오 선바지가 시대보여는 계신 거는 좀 십시오. 시럽 탑메베 시럽다 시럽메베 탑을 해주라. 딩니자니 징외 넘버레스라. 징외 넘버레스. 아니 제자니 니자 메도메로와레라 지송보다스. 당한 저기 탑라는 전주 선바들 샘들을 샤라스. 이 시럽은 동만이 아니 제자니 탑단 시럽 해주라. 마파나 동만이기 시럽 탑 전주 선바 전주 선바 전주 샘다 아니 동만이기 따와디니 바라라 디와카리오레스. 조마파나 이점에 찍면도 메로와레라 숨고요라스. 지난이 갑도 마파나 전주 샘바다 아니 전주 샘베 샘다 동이도 베시라 바라라 디와카리오레스.
아니 근데 우동도 비시라를 주면 너 저도 줘라. 너 인지비에 나중에 포트 좀 봐. 근데 왜 거기 어디를 채워놔야 아니 수강 못 줘도 시错不上吧。근데 중심이 단단한 어디想去 있으면 뭐마다 정말 태국 차례에 저는 무서워 사요. 제가 내일 때 손이 숨도 내고 나서 있다. 소소들은 루트에서 근데 이제 아니 우리는 좋아요. 지나가면서 남자 내리고 한 번째 초 마사라나 초 손을 무서워해. 손을 무서워야 상하 도이는 이게 좀 테스트 도여까지 가고. 그래도 진짜
So then, when we're talking about wisdom and skillful means, then as you say, it is correct to say that wisdom refers to the wisdom of emptiness, and skillful means refers to the bodhicitta, So now, as these texts say, one without the other doesn't make sense. One without the other doesn't make sense, because in order to give rise or to come to a realization of this wisdom of emptiness, then one cannot do without accumulation of merits in the first place. So if you do not have the accumulation of merits, then it's impossible to come to a place wherein you are able to realize the wisdom of emptiness. So these are correlated in that sense. So then this comes, this we need to refer to the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom itself. So for example, when we were in the nunnery as students, then our teachers used to advise us that even though we engage in all these debates in the courtyard, you contemplate on the meaning of the text in the classrooms, it's important to do like different kind of things, different type of things outside of the classroom. If you are able to serve the monastery in other capacity, you should learn to do these things. And now, with the point that was being made at that point was, even though if you begin to engage in debate, all that, you begin to work towards the accumulation of wisdom itself. But then, in order to achieve the supreme realization of the wisdom of emptiness, you cannot do without the accumulation of merit itself. So that's why he was asking us to serve the monastery in any different capacity, or learn to serve the nunnery in any different capacity one can. Yes.
What often happens with nursing, there's a thing, people get compassion fatigue. In other words, they care so much that in the end they just burn themselves out. So it seems to me that type of compassion isn't informed by
Wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not as, so it's really trying to tweeze out that relationship between the two. And like, with the compassion fatigue, I mean, I saw that regularly, particularly in Paleo. But I feel because I studied Buddhism, that sort of supported me not to. And I guess the way that I managed it is that, when you're with somebody, you're there with them. You're 100% there with them, doing everything that you can for them and what you need to do for them at that particular moment. And so when you leave, you've done everything that you can at that stage. And then you do that with everybody. So understanding that I couldn't stop their suffering, but I could, when I'm with them, I can do my best to do that. And then you just leave it there with them. So I found that the mindfulness was what I felt, the way they informed.
Tini Kurang dila ita tatanda nga zo Kurang nima mesha baras. Mesha bayi di zamba ni ta nyingji rangshingi che mo tosmila. 강도둑이 밀어 강연 지다치기로 왔어. 그래서 많이 삼삼다 아재 우도도 차리랬어. 가스신의 시우시 폐매주로. 삼삼다 닝지 제제제 내가 거랑 뭐거라 들으라. 밀러로 같이 해서 많이 삼삼 닝지 제제전에 당치해야 돼. 뒤줄이 그랬어. 닝지랑라 이당치해야 돼. 닝지가 가져고도 깨고래 삼삼들이 뒤줄이 그랬어. 딜레 고액이 중생 갈통도들라나 닝지 디 시럽 2차 매원. 닝지들라 니 시럽 2차 숙심 매원. 상호거든요. 니 딩아자 말에 미만 볼라들이 샵슈 지소 샵슈다 메셔들라 전화 중요해서. 니 그런 게 삼로 당달아치나 니 미티다 냠도 유나스가 네바디 냠도 가요 지자 카운터도 뒤즈이네 아보다야 샵주이네 아보시야 데베스 베야지라 비즈니스 니 코다 아니다 소소 둘라면은 디고를 삼으시라 당해요. 가이는 소소기 가수치도 제사라서 비즈니스 삼으시라 당해요. 제산들라 니 제바 시신으로 슈차 차숙심도 왔어.
배운다. 무슨 거 배우는 여러 치디거든. 딱 보면 배우가 그걸 가르치는 게 내가 제가 우주적 같은 거 같이 그 가르나서 가르치는 친구들. 딱 보면 제 나는 집에 살이가 내가 삼거든. 수술 갈래 이거는 빙마. 카이라이 유비깔에 하고 치와이네. 그게 카이라 빙이라. 트랑기 삼았다 와이네. 삼았다 뭐 이제 제일 핸드폰도 보거든요. 전부디 이마 간자 내버디 가게 통이나 디도 같이. 야 본다 나가 쓰리나 더버디 삼다는 수술 주는다. 지금. 그런데 시그라. 지리가 삼았다 하고 치라. 그냥 수술 만슬리야. 쉬고 많이냐.
So this is a very good approach one can take, and because this is more practical. And otherwise, as we already said, we suffer more as a reaction to our own and others' suffering. So if we even if we develop a great sense of compassion, and if we carry that kind of thought, thinking about others' suffering, away from our, let's say in the case of a nurse, then away from the workspace into the home space and so forth, then your own mental health begins to suffer as a result. So bodhicitta is compassion in action. So compassion in action means practically doing what you can to help others. And then when you are near that person, when you're actually in the workspace where you are helping them, then do your best, doing your best, giving them the care, comfort that they need to the best of your ability, with the best of your motivation, intention. And when you come back, then it's practical to not think so much about that.
내버디 강이 양세한 차이 되거든요. 내버디 점점 때서 삼았다 옵니다. 저는 내버디나 내버디 콜라도 안데스 치고 양 안데스 담아도 삼았다 담아도 내버 콜라기 누기도 되지 않아야지. 안데스야. 삼당 삼샤. 이제 땅도 샤. 산이 거기더니 수로 다를 싸움에 가르치는 거는 거기 담아서 삼다야. 행동도 담아니 인 나라랑 난다. 이제 전전 점점 어떤 일이 오거든. 총을 여가지나 갖고 있는 여가지 밑까지 그라 아파기를ညွတ်ခါလေးနကကြီးတော့ခါလေးပါကြီးတော့တုံးနေချို့စစ်စဒီခါရှိစုံငါမိလည်းရှိပြညာဒီကကြီးဖိုင်လည်းပဲကန်ချေချာစုံလာကြစမကြတယ်ဖိုင်လည်းခါချုံချုံတော့ပဒချစီချို့လည်းပဲတောင်းရရှိစလေးစလေးနာမည်ဒါဟာလည်းခါချုံတယ်그라 이 가게 참게 되면 그 어쨌든 시작 시작하게 되고
So then this is not to say we should never think about these things, but there is a way to think about these things, wherein the thinking process is more practical. When you think, if you develop such a compassion wherein you inadvertently begin thinking about them, then think about practical means where you can help them, where you can put them in a better place. So think about these kind of solutions rather than thinking about the problem or the suffering that he is going through. If you just focus on that, then it's not practical for yourself. It doesn't help the other person. So if you inadvertently find yourself thinking, then try to direct that thinking process towards solutions. And if you do that, then that thinking process is more practical, effective. Otherwise, it does not serve both the parties well. Actually, you begin to suffer more as a consequence. So, like that example, let's say there is a businessman. Then, in the course of engaging in business, then of course there's a lot of stress, a lot of things not going well. But then when he comes home, if he brings the same sort of stress, same sort of issues, and begin to talk about it in his home, then it ruins the home environment. So it's better if that businessman does whatever he can do to solve the issues in his business in the business space. And when he's home, he spends a good time with his family. This is much more practical. Questions?
Okay, let me know. Right.
Thank you.
당연하죠. 타마디던가 건조상목이네. 디지가 베제티. 연락dem하기 항상주. 어디라를 타기 타마. 디지에다. 아니 점로를 대마지 수시. So then the 8th verse, the first two lines we already discussed. It's about the sevenfold offering. And now the last two lines, which continues into the 9th verse. And with the thought never to turn back until attaining the essence of complete enlightenment, with fervent faith in the three jewels, place one knee on the ground, join the palms together, and first take refuge 3 times. So herein, when we begin to make offerings, then one of the most important kind of aspiration that we need to have is this aspiration for unshakable determination to never turn back on the practice, on the cultivation of that path to liberation. So we should never turn our back. We should develop a sort of an unshakable determination. And then developing that unshakable determination not to turn your back on the path or the practice to achieve complete enlightenment. Then with fervent faith in the three jewels, place one knee on the ground, join the palms together, and first take refuge 3 times. So this is the normal kind of physical posture one assumes when you prostrate or when you express reverence and respect in the Buddhist culture. When we prostrate, we kneel down, and when we prostrate, prostrate, we join our palms together. Now we will not go into a detailed discussion about the symbolism of these things, but the important thing here is with an unshakable determination never to turn your back on that path to liberation, or that until attaining complete liberation, and then take refuge 3 times in the 3 jewels. Yes.
근데 지금 안에 따라서 아무것도 좀 잘하서라. 다 내내 가서 심지어 탐지에 나가서라. 근데 왜 안에 가서 너를 좀 심지어 탐지를 상담 보더라. 심지어 탐지라. 샴베센에 혼로 외에 샴베기 심지어 탐지를 제일 그거 내가 제일 적 그래서라. 근데 왜 저 심지어 탐지가 안에 가서 근데 심지어 탐지라 샴베센에 혼로 외에 무슨 그거 이거 샤고 하는 거 모르겠어. 근데 이게 가서 하면 딱 예수님도 여기 심지어가 예수님은 야와에 다 들어. 라 예수님도 제수 방송 예수님 제일 나한테 딱 줘야 되는 거니까 아니 치고 있으니까 치고 하는 거 유도 루시는 거 치고 소지 돈을 다 되는 주의 이게 뭐죠 봐. 이게 나도 이게 소 가서 치고 소지 이게 위해서 딱 치고 와서 이게 좀 소발하는 게 눈에 나는 뭐 다른 거 아니 너무 나한테 근데 왜 눈이 너무 심장하지 같은데 눈에 제가 아직 눈에 있는 순간 눈에 있는 치고 와서 눈에 있는가 다 되게 있는 너무 심장하지 우리 같은 있어 다 두두 징고도 있어라 근데 아니 눈에 진이 눈에 와서 눈에 다 가져와서 눈에 있는 거라 눈에 딱 눈에 눈에 주도 지전에 주 처벌 눈에 아니 눈에 주 그래서 뭐가 지전에서 아는 노아 타로 되고 있어 진짜 다 간다가 또 사례시는 게 예수도 눈에 날에 제가 나시 눈에 날에 아니 나 눈에랑 나도 마음을 다 주의도 제발 눈에라 그래서 정말에 좋아하는 게 되게 그렇죠 그래라
So then moving on, then beginning with the mind of love for all sentient beings, consider all those without exception who suffer in the 3 lower realms from birth, death and so forth, with the wish to liberate all beings from the suffering of suffering, from suffering and its causes, generate bodhicitta with irreversible resolve. So this makes the point that we discussed about how in order to generate such an altruistic intention, first it's important to come to accept that all sentient beings suffer, and as a consequence of that, with that acceptance, then we can come to a place wherein we look towards all sentient beings with love. So, beginning with the mind of love for all sentient beings, consider all those without exception who suffer in the 3 lower realms from birth, death and so forth. So the suffering in the form of birth, death, aging, sickness, the suffering of change, the suffering of pervasive conditioning. So first we need to come to an acceptance that we are all the same in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering, and that all of us do suffer as such. And then we come to that acceptance that indeed this is so, and then we can place our mind, we can come to a place wherein we look at all sentient beings with the mind of love. And then when you develop such a mind of love towards all sentient beings, taking into this their sufferings, then with the wish to liberate all beings from the suffering of suffering, from suffering and its causes, generate bodhicitta with irreversible resolve. So from that place, you can now open your motivation to all sentient beings, and with a wish to alleviate their suffering and to liberate them from suffering and its causes. Then you develop a bodhicitta which is unshakable. Yes. So then at this point maybe a question. We already discussed about what is bodhicitta, what is this altruistic intention. So now are you able to come to a better understanding of what bodhicitta is? So what is bodhicitta? 심지어 다다 아니 동일에 다르죠 드리스. 다들. Anyone else?
I didn't hear what she said. What did who just said? But I didn't hear what she just said.
The wish to liberate your sentiments.
On the website.
Chilamas. Did anybody else say something? Yeah. Karelapso.
Can you be louder?
Compassion without discrimination. 예제매 비닝지스. 미라 리그리다 지기인데 예제매 비닝지. 좋아했어. Love not in the worldly sense of the word. 단단 아주 장발라야 남긴 아주 기체와라 시기요 뭐라. 단단 maybe we ask Kishima to define what love is. 근데 장발라는 로칸데지를 샤브레스.
샹발라나 내가 되게 너무 되게 샹발라 주제 충분히 샹발라 샹벨로 시대가 되게 다치다기 그러니까 샹정처
장발 단단 비긴나가 장발티는 세와티.
네.
니 통말 심진 다달래.
아.
정족이 지에들라요라. 니 많이 니 손에 주기 되달라.
나는 예수순들아 예수순들 제수는 주보수지 예리스 로마 둘라데스라 라테테 용의 진리
말해. 디간델라 니 장박이 로라야지 되요나 니 쯔엘로라야지.
나는 정배선다 되면 정배선
그래라. 장발라나 니 맞서 간지지로. 지고있어.
뭐라 샹바 장발라 지나기 나도 장가 이게 장발라 하다가 신 동네를 마세비 데리고 좀
So then, when we are talking about love in this context, it's not in the worldly sense of the word. Love is that unbearable feeling you have when someone else is suffering. Love and compassion.
그거를 샴푸에 제거를 그걸 러브에 제거를 attachment에 요라. 나는 지금 심지어 두개와들 하라다 콜라 attachment도 있는 것이라. 네, 콜라 샴푸에
So then, there are two very similar words. Now in English, for lack of a better word, it's both love. In Tibetan, we say chamba, and chamba is not informed by a sense of attachment per se, in the normal way we relate to our parents, friends, or someone. But tsewa, now that's love in the sense in which it is informed by a sense of attachment. So it is the first one in this context, without a sense of attachment.
I think we actually defined it
Yes.
a few days ago. And we said that love is when we wish happiness to all sentient beings, and compassion is when we wish end of suffering
Yes.
to all sentient beings.
Dira chambalana ngazoge simji shiendelada dewagi salgoye dewa di chamba shienlara ani shien dungela minarwadi minawa nichi dewa. Yes, so yeah. Good. Any Any other questions, doubts, or?
So is love part of bodhicitta?
Yes, a love that is not informed by attachment.
rangi chosu chigo, beba da sunen chigo, pechen lam jugo chigo, zoe ji nabi ji sengi le bisha ba rangi chosu chigo, beba da sunen chigo, pechen lam jugo chibe, zoe ji nabi shila, ani ji sengi le.
So then, the technical definition of bodhicitta is that altruistic intention to achieve complete and perfect enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, and it is the door through which one begins to enter the Mahayana practice.
But if it needs to be informed by wisdom.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm really trying to flesh out.
Yeah.
I need more of an understanding
Really.
of how it is informed by wisdom.
So when we say complete and perfect enlightenment, then in the Tibetan, it also changchukdu zobarla de zama shirabi chaya ni changchukdu zobarla tsundu yara. So in the cultivation of the path, we always say wisdom and method. So complete perfection of both wisdom and method. So if we kind of look at the etymology of the word bodhicitta in Tibetan, now bodhi means to pacify all, chang means to pacify all afflictions, overcome all afflictions. Chup means to perfect all the qualities. So bodhicitta. So we'll continue on with the text itself, and maybe more questions arise later on. So then the last line, generate bodhicitta with irreversible resolve. So the generation of such an altruistic mind is not subject to whether you want to think about sentient beings at one instance and then to completely forget about the suffering of sentient beings at another turn. The generation of that altruistic intention should come with an unshakable resolve, an unshakable determination. Yes. Maitreya has thoroughly explained the qualities of generating such aspirational bodhicitta in the Sutra of the Arrayed Tree. So Maitreya, the enlightened being, known as the future Buddha, has thoroughly explained the qualities of generating such aspirational bodhicitta. So at this stage, the bodhicitta that we generate in our mind stream is an aspirational type of bodhicitta. And there are two types of bodhicitta: aspirational bodhicitta and engaged bodhicitta. So then, having understood the limitless qualities of the mind of complete enlightenment, from reading the sutra or listening to a spiritual teacher, generate this very state of mind again and again. So as we already cited one text, Sutra of the Arrayed Tree, which thoroughly explains the qualities of generating such aspirational bodhicitta, then familiarize yourself with these sutras in order to come to understand the limitless qualities of the mind of complete enlightenment. The mind of complete enlightenment herein refers to the ultimate bodhicitta itself. Or by listening to a spiritual teacher, think about generating this bodhicitta within your mind stream again and again by thinking of the limitless qualities. So generally there are many sutras which says that the qualities of such a mind of complete enlightenment would, if it is to fill if it begins to fill the kind of multiple spheres of universe, then it will not be enough to contain the qualities of the complete mind of enlightenment. Yes. So this kind of refers to the expensive qualities of such a complete mind of enlightenment, wherein if the qualities of such a complete enlightenment can take a physical form, then the multiple spheres of universe will not be enough to contain them. So then, as we already said, then we cannot generate such an altruistic intention just by thinking about it once. As beginners, we need to kind of familiarize ourselves with the qualities of such an altruistic mind first, and we can begin to do this by revisiting the texts which describe the qualities of such a mind, or listening to try to generate such an altruistic mind within ourselves. So it's impossible to do it at one go. You need to keep revisiting it again and again to familiarize yourself in order to inculcate such an altruistic intention in yourselves. So if we look at the prayer book itself, if we have it in our hands, there's a dedication prayer which starts with, "May the precious bodhicitta arise if not yet born. When generated, may it never diminish, but increase more and more." So this is the kind of prayer, the dedication that we do. So even in that prayer, like, we do not say that the altruistic intention. In page number 44, I read the prayer again. It's the starts at the start of the dedication's prayer. "May the precious bodhicitta arise if not yet born. When generated, may it never diminish, but increase more and more." Yes. So then when we look at that particular prayer, "May the precious bodhicitta arise if not yet born." Now, when we are talking about bodhicitta, then it is described as precious. And in the traditional explanations or interpretations, then we say that bodhicitta, such an altruistic mind, is even rarer and more precious than the precious jewels that we attach so much value to. And then we know that precious jewels are hard to come by, very rare. And it's even more precious and more rarer than these precious jewels. So may the precious bodhicitta arise if not yet born. So if such an altruistic intention is has not arisen in your mind stream yet, then strive to cultivate a practice which gives rise to such an altruistic intention. And likewise, if we do not have a precious jewel in our hand, and if we want it, then we have to look for ways to get such a precious jewel in our hand. And now, getting that precious jewel in our hand is not enough. We need to take care that it is not damaged over the period of time. And then we need to safeguard it and so forth. So likewise, when generated, may it never diminish, but increase more and more. So as beginners, we are given to afflictions, moments of anger, moments of attachment, moments of ignorance. So then we begin to lose that aspiration to generate bodhicitta. So it's important to constantly renew our vows in a sense, this aspirational vow of generating altruistic intention again and again. Thus. So this is the way it is explained in the text, in the sutras. Now we shouldn't just leave it at that. We need to try to relate this to ourselves first, if this is true. So as you receive teachings, attend teachings, then you get a good feeling. And then like the teachings really appeal to you. Then you feel like at the moment when you're receiving these teachings, you feel like this makes sense. But when you leave the teachings, then you begin to engage in the same way. You begin to be irritable. You begin to be angry at the smallest irritation, so forth. So when you begin to relate to this in this manner, then we realize the importance of the stress that the teachings give on constantly trying to think on this, contemplate on this, and then constantly remind oneself to generate such an intention, such a motivation constantly again and again. Because from this example, from attending teachings, feeling good, relating to the teachings appealing to you, making sense, then when you leave the teachings after a few days, you forget about the teachings. So likewise, generating such an altruistic intention is similar. We begin to feel a strong sense of compassion in one instance, and then completely forget about it through the rest of the day. So it's important to constantly remind oneself to generate such an intention again and again. So when we compare it to a precious jewel, then taking care and safeguarding a precious jewel against the damages of time and elements is easier. We can just wrap it in a silk, put it in a box, lock it, keep it, it's safe. But guarding the generation of such an altruistic intention is much more difficult than that. This is why it's so rare and precious. This is why we need to put in the effort to constantly remind oneself of such a motivation, such an intention. So when you come face to face with adverse conditions that you do not like, then such a motivation, reminding yourself of that motivation can really help you actually. So if you can, then it's very beneficial to recite this dedication prayer, the one that we just talked about. May the precious bodhicitta arise, if not yet born, when generated, may it never diminish, but increase more and more. And I think it will be really good if you are able to memorize just this verse yourself, and if you can in English. And then if you recite this, like if you can, try to recite a whole rosary, the whole rosary of this prayer in a day. And when you do this, then you are reminded of the importance of 44 page, the importance of generating such an aspirational altruistic intention again and again. And even when you begin to give into afflictions, even when you begin to engage in negative actions, then it's a constant reminder that your words do not match your actions, and that you begin to see how hypocritical we can be sometimes. And so this is a good reminder, a prayer that can hold you in good stead if you do daily recitations. So then I really request you all to memorize this and try to recite it daily if you can. And traditionally, in the classical monastic education, that system, rote learning or memorization has a huge importance. And this is because exactly of situations like this. And when we were young, then we didn't really understand the meaning of all these words. And then we had to, in Tibet, it's very cold in the morning. So when we were small, we had to get up in that cold. And then as kids, we are always lacking for sleep. So then we really felt like, what's the point? And then in India, it's much better. The climate is much more, the climate is not that extreme. So in the classical monastic education, they place a great importance on memorization of these root texts. And my root guru, my root guru used to say that it's very important to memorize these verses. And then as you begin to recite this, then just a recitation is not enough. You need to contemplate on the meaning of these verses. So he used to say that as you utter these good words from your mouth, as you recite these good words in your mouth, their good meanings should reflect in your minds. Their good meanings should appear in your minds. So this is the approach we need towards recitations. So then, saying that, then we will end the session with a recitation in English of this particular verse. We will recite it slowly together. May the precious bodhicitta arise, if not yet born. When generated, may it never diminish, but increase more and more. So then if you begin to contemplate just this sense for you now? The meaning, the importance, the implications of this verse, does it make sense to you now? 인지능도 디스타가요, 그러면서. 인지능도 나중에 디스타가요, 리가요. So if the meaning is clear, then memorizing it would not be such a problem. Huh?
Why did he say if not yet born? Like if it is born, will we not know it?
What?
He says may the precious bodies arise if not yet born.
Oh, if not yet born.
Yeah, if it is born, like will we not know it that it is born?
So same, if may it arise, if it hasn't arisen yet. 근데 제유는 제유바 하고 이 말을 했다. 진짜서 봐. 제 메나스라 제유는 제유바 하고 이 말을 했어. So it's time to be honest, Sachin.